Hello and welcome to the Side of the Desk podcast for our 13th episode. Where the hell does time go? Each month I'm chatting with influential industry leaders, exploring their journey to success and also, more importantly, the role recruitment played throughout their journey. Now, we are currently streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube, so you can watch or listen instantly. Or if you can't join us live today, don't stress. I get life is busy. You can always watch this later. Now, joining me today for episode 13, lucky 13 though, is Gina Kay, who is the marketing manager at Mash Media. Now, Gina started events at Newcastle University, where she pursued her passion in events management at the University of Greenwich, graduating this year after virtual studies during the pandemic. With a sandwich year as a marketing executive for Exhibition News in the middle, Gina is now the marketing manager at Exhibition News or Mash Media and has been named one of the top 50 event professionals in Europe. Plus is the only Zillennial marketer I've ever seen. So welcome, Gina, to the Side of the Desk. Anything you want to add to that intro?
No, definitely not. That's perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries. I love those VTs. Naomi does those VTs and everybody likes them. They're brilliant. So welcome. Now listen, before we get started, we are live. So please feel free to share your comments and thoughts in the comment box. If you want to, just introduce yourself and let us know where you are in the world. So Gina, let's get started. Are you excited? Are you looking forward to this?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Yeah.
Oh, so listen, is this obviously a recruitment podcast for the events industry? So I'm going to have to start with a recruitment question. So what does recruitment mean to you as a whole? Like, what's your personal experience with recruitment been like so far?
So I think there's pre-event and then there's the events. I think pre-event, doing kind of little bits and bobs and jobs kind of before I really found my passion. I actually got into the events industry through my apprenticeship at Newcastle University. And then we went through a restructure. And at that point, basically at Newcastle University, they merged 10 of the academic schools into 4. And I found out that that basically my job wasn't going to be available anymore.
Nice.
And so I was actually part of Unison at the time, and I kind of negotiated that, if I can't have my job, then at least let me interview up. And so they let me interview for 17 different jobs with one interview. Yep. Yeah, to rank them from 1 to 5. And I put events at the top because I kind of found out that was the part of my apprenticeship that I loved. I loved supporting events and helping out on the day with student recruitment events and some of the academic conferences. And I ended up getting the job. So, wow. Yeah. So that kind of is how I got into events. And then I kind of did that for 2 years. I was their only event assistant in the School of Engineering, which was a combination of 6 schools. It's the second biggest school of the university. But I absolutely loved it. And then in terms of the recruitment, I basically quit my job in 2019 to do my degree. And so a lot of the jobs I had after that were through a lot of networking, through volunteering. I got my job at MASH through kind of volunteering at Make and Publishing Pay, and I saw Duncan Siegel there, and I had the courage to kind of give Ed Tranter my business card for the first time ever. And so a lot of the recruitment I've done since being in events has been a lot of networking and volunteering.
Did you say engineering?
Yes.
So before the recent one, which I will get to in a second, so you were doing engineering as a degree, were you?
No, I did engineering as events, in terms of actually producing the events that I was doing.
I thought you meant engineering, mechanical engineering, and I was like, hang on, what's happening?
No, I'm not that smart.
So when you went to university, what was that sort of driver? What was that? I want to go and do a degree, because there's a lot of chat in our industry about, is a degree right? Should clients ask for a degree? But what made you sort of, as you were already sort of on your way in a career, and then you went, no, I'm going to go and do a degree. What was that driver for that?
I think that being in a university environment, working on their events, I could see the benefit of having the theory to back up a lot of the events and how they did them, and like for me, I'd already had the experience like for like 2-3 years. So what I felt like I needed was the theory to kind of really give almost the academics the level of events that they deserved, that I couldn't at the age of 20 kind of really provide on just 2 years of working on my own alone. And I think that what I see of like education as is it's like a driving test. It's like you have your theory for your driving and you have your practical for your driving. Very much, I think, in events is quite similar.
That's I've never thought about that. That's a really good, because the thing that I always struggle a bit with the degree is when employers ask for a degree, but it has really nothing to do with the job.
Yeah.
And that I think can cause problems, because then you get people who think, oh, should I have a degree? And a degree is a big, like how long was yours? Was it 2 years you did yours?
I did mine for 4.
4, sorry.
Yeah.
You were away for 4 years in that bit from when I knew you and you went to university.
Yeah, so I started in 2019, in September 2019, and I graduated this July. And I did a university.
4 years.
Yeah.
It feels like it was like 2. I remember you were talking about networking. I remember I do a lot of stuff with universities, and I was asked to do that talk on recruitment in events, and I thought that.
Oh, I think you just.
So the next thing I came on is difficulty. Right, are you back there now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Internet problems. I have no clue. But yeah, so I remember I was asked to do this this talk, and I thought I was coming on, to have like the prep session about what it is. And next thing I know, the camera went, and there was a whole classroom, and I was like, oh, they want me to do the talk now. And then I saw you, and I was like, oh, there's Gina. I was like, there's Gina, what are you doing? So that networking thing's been something that, you've really taken in, but people struggle with that sometimes. And that's not just, my age or your age, networking in our industry. So how did you sort of approach that networking? Was it strategic? Was it just something that comes natural? Or was it like, I want to do this for my job? How did you get to do that?
For me, like I've always been like a natural extrovert, and so yes, sometimes that comes in hand, but there is times when I think the social anxiety does get the better of you. So I do prep a little bit. So if I'm going to meetings of networking and other like networking events, I usually see who's going there, check up their names, have questions pre-prepared. I think the easiest one you can ask the events industry is, what was the last event you worked on?
So like your go-to opening, is it like?
Yeah, and then to close it, I kind of usually say, oh, is there anybody else in the room that you think I should talk to? Yeah, so kind of having an opening and a closing has been able to kind of make the networking. And I do always ask for their LinkedIn, and I just feel like it's kind of like a nice touch to kind of follow up if you have like met them the day before, and obviously thank anyone that is attending your event especially.
And with that, I mean, that's great advice, and I hope people listen to that, because networking is one of those things. Like when I used to network, as I'm an old man.
You're not that old. Oh, I think you've frozen again.
3 years away from 50, Gina. Holy cow. Everyone can hear me. I apologise. Do I keep freezing? Do I? That's so.
Yeah.
So odd.
It's okay.
I don't understand that, because I've got full bars and all my own stuff. So yeah, live shows, Live shows. What I'll do is we'll keep going, and if something goes wrong, I will switch over to another Wi-Fi, and then you can just chat to the audience for a bit on your own.
Okay.
But yeah, so the networking side of things, I think, is really important, because it's not just like the drinking and the staying out. The networking stuff's important. And what advice would you give to people, apart from strategy and think about it? What advice would you give to people maybe not too sure about networking in our sector?
I think the proof is in the pudding, and being able to support your personal brand, even if it is just going and asking people, how did you get to where you are? What are some things like advice for on site? They're kind of worth it. Even I think this industry is very nurturing, and I think people do want to give back. And so like I think that it's quite easy to kind of make friends and stuff in this industry, and I think that that's kind of not the hardest part, but essentially the part where you can really make it work for you. If you want to get to where you want to be in the industry and you see somebody in that place, you know, asking them how they got to where they are and asking them, you know, what their best advice is like 5 minutes of their time, which most of the time they'll give.
I think it's that community thing as well, isn't it? We do all support each other and we do all sort of lift each other up. I'm really interested as well, because when you sort of decided, apart from you said about the theory, which I love that idea, that's quite a big decision though, because you had a job, didn't you? And then you went, right, I'm just going to go. Like where does that come from? Where does that enthusiasm, confidence?
I think for me, like I knew I was providing good events, and for me, I really wanted to be able to provide the same quality as a Russell Group University academic deserved. And I think that I wasn't getting the support from my manager at the time, and I wasn't getting any kind of confirmation as to kind of getting the training and development that I wanted. So I was kind of like, well, fuck you, I'm going to leave. and I chose London specifically because I was like, well, it's the epicenter of events. And I kind of was a bit bored of Newcastle by that point after 6 years. And like I knew some people in London. So like that was enough for me to kind of go, that was like the dot on the map. I was like, I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, you know, how can you get bored of Newcastle though? Newcastle's crazy.
I loved it, but 6 years I think was enough to live there.
Bless you. I mean, you know, talking about doing your studies, you did your studies during the pandemic.
Yes.
You know, so much of that must have been virtual. That must have been really bloody hard. Like, how did you sort of control, or how did you navigate those challenges of remote learning? And has that also maybe bled into your experience with events now? Because obviously, you know.
Yeah, like admittedly, like, so I was very lucky where I got to volunteer at Make and Publish and Pay in February 2020, like obviously the month before the pandemic started. During the pandemic, I then like had to pivot because I still needed to pay my rent and stuff. So alongside doing my degree, I started like a pasta business that kind of went a little bit viral and was in the Telegraph and stuff. And so I did that for a few months alongside my degree, but then I used that case study as part of my like entrepreneurship module. And then I also then in second year, by that point in second year, I was the president of the Event Society, and we had to do like a module for a digital event, and that was all kind of virtual, and that went really well. I think it was just learning that different side of events, that we were kind of still on the same timeline as every other event professional, learning how to do, you know, virtual events for us it was as students. And, you know, actually, to be fair, when we did get the lectures and the tutorials, we did them over Zoom, we did them over Teams, and the lecturers, we could pause. So if they were talking too quickly, you know, at least we could kind of pause and reset some of the topics. And I think yeah. So like, obviously in a live lecture, I couldn't pause anybody. So going back to that was almost more difficult because they didn't kind of carry on doing the virtual lectures. And then I basically chose to do a placement year because I kind of lost out on a few things during the 2 years. So I really fought hard and I think I applied to like 120 different placement years. The event industry ones don't come out until very late in the day. So I kind of got a hold of Duncan Siegel again and was like, pretty please, can I work for Much Media? And they kind of initially told me, they were like, oh, we don't really have anything available at the moment. And I just kept like emailing them like, oh my God, I love your stuff, commenting. And then they kind of rang me back and we were like, oh, we need a marketing exec, a marketing assistant for the event production show. That was the one at Farnborough. first ever one back, I was like working on that for 5 weeks.
Wow.
And then when that finished, I kind of realized that I loved the exhibition industry, and it was great to meet everybody and see how that worked. But for me, I was like, actually, I would love to work on the publications. And that's when they offered me the role as marketing exec for Exhibitioneers.
That's nuts. Now, I'm just going to stop for it because obviously I seem to have a bit of technical stuff my side, which I don't know. Just for our audience, if it does go again, what I'm going to...
Oh, I think you've gone again. I think he's just going to come back and switch for a bit. Switch his Wi-Fi for a second.
You can take over the show.
Yeah, I'm just going to interview myself. Oh no. Let's see what happens when we do virtual events. Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Hello.
Hi.
If you're watching Virgin Media, 8 years you've never had a problem. Why today? Why today? I'm so sorry, Gina. Hopefully you filled in. So we were just talking about the degree and things, and I think we alluded to at the beginning around the whole, you know, there is a little bit of chatter about a degree. You've been there, you've done it. Like, what would your advice be for people? And also what I'm going to ask you, and I hope you don't mind, is, you know, what was the best bit about it, and what would you change, you know, if you could do it again? So overall, like, would you recommend it?
Yeah, like I specifically chose Greenwich because they had corporate events as a module. They had sustainable events as a module, and you know, they had that side that I was interested in. For me, I wasn't that interested in the typical event degree where it is more festival based. So I chose the degree specifically for doing corporate events, MICE events, and they then provided a lot of guest lecturers like Rob Davidson and you know, Mason from and this is where I forget everybody's name. But I would also I'd follow like, you know, Laurie Hanks from Montgomery and Shane from Montgomery, and you know, we had lots of amazing kind of guest lecturers that I then followed up with on LinkedIn and kind of got to know, and that's kind of how I started building that network. And I loved that side of it, getting to actually see real case studies from events. And how that worked. And then we also got to have our own goal. Like, I think people think that a degree is just looking at the books and having the lecturers, you know, lecture on it. And it's not like that. Like, we had to produce a virtual event that like made money for charity. And then we also had to do pitches like based on actual briefs. Like we had even our exams, we had briefs for doing an association event in Berlin, and we had to provide like actual like venues that were free during the time that the brief had. Like, I got to be able to do a lot of what you expect to do in a real life event job. It's not everything, but like, it gave me a good enough base that I kind of knew from my practical side that I'd already done, and combined with the best practice from peer-reviewed journals and lecturers that have been doing it for the last 8 years, you know, I think that was the best part of it, is knowing that like it was just what I needed to be able to network and build that portfolio in terms of understanding the best practice for event management. The thing I'd probably change about it was probably, I think the connection that they had with some of the placement years. And also for the dissertation, like I did my dissertation on B2B industry award events. Like, there wasn't actually that much academic like backing around those couple of events. So like, actually what I was doing was quite difficult because I was like looking at experiential marketing and looking at sponsorship for events, like, and trying to piece that together for the type of events that I actually run in a dissertation that could actually provide the industry with real knowledge.
I think it's so interesting because I think, the brand experience, the sponsorship and festivals, that is quite sexy side of the industry. And I think the B2B side gets a bit of a bum rap, doesn't it? It gets a bit of like, it's boring stuff. But now with internal communications being such a huge part of these companies' strategy, it's really important. And you touched on something there, and I've never really thought about it, but you wouldn't believe the amount of CVs I see from people who've been to a degree, and they just say, Newcastle degree, 4 years. But what you've just sort of outlined is what I would imagine to see on somebody who's had a job. And that's such, on your CV, have you got like, pitched for this and then an overview to it? Do you actually lay that out on your CV?
Yeah, like I did, like, I put like them as soft skills because they're not hard skills yet. I feel like for me, like, they're things that we got taught how to do, and we did get to do 1 or 2 of them, but they're not hard enough of a skill yet that I could go into a job of a manager level. I feel like there's something that they touched upon and we kind of did delve into a little bit, but that's what I've got them down as. I've got them down, but then obviously I have done portions of those in my previous roles. Like, I've been lucky enough to pitch events, and I've been, I worked with an agency for 2 months. Like, I've done some of like the venue briefing and the venue sourcing and stuff like that already. So like I was very lucky, and I still have that side to back it up as part of my CV. But for anybody kind of just coming out of the degree level, I would say that I could put it down as a soft skill rather than like as a hard skill.
Yeah, I mean, it's all stuff, isn't it, that shows, the sort of, not just the passion for it, but you've done it, and you've approached these things that do come up in the real career as well. I like that. I've never thought of it like that before. Right, I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to get on to the recruitment hot seat, and the little VT will play when we get ready for that. But through your career, and let's probably not do it with mass media because obviously I know you're still there, but what would you say pre that was like, what's the best and the worst job you've had to do? Just so people know it's not all sunshine and lollipops, but there is light at the end of the tunnel.
In the events industry or not in the events industry?
If you've got it in events, great. If not, I don't care.
To be fair, like I think I've been working since the age of about 13. Like, I've always had a job. My first ever job I'd gotten because I was helping out like with the Christmas lights in the town, and he was like one of the business owners was like, wow, she's really proactive, like, would you like a job in the local fish and chip shop? Like, and that was, I would say, probably would be like my worst. That was a lot of like, I just felt like grease. It was really bad.
It's mad, isn't it? I used to.
It was. But it was the first job I had, so I was just chuffed to have anything, like, my own pocket money and that side of things. In terms of like, in terms of the best, I remember doing like cocktail making for an agency, for an event that we were doing for a wealth management company. And that was brilliant because it was like in the middle of the pandemic, nobody could go anywhere, but I was like sitting there making cocktails as part of the event, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, I used to date a girl years ago that worked in a chip shop, and the smell, you just can't get rid of it, can you?
Yeah, so I think I quit that when I was like 14, 15.
Your work ethic comes in very, very early. I think you've done more in your career than most people have in 20 years. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to get onto the recruitment hot seat, which I'll explain. There's going to be a very short VT. It is incredibly short, by the way, and then we'll come back and kick on with it, okay?
Okay, cool, fab.
There you go. I did say it was quick. I did warn you.
Right, I was like, I could have some water, but not really.
I'm so. So what we're going to do is it's basically just word association. I've got 7 words, relating to what we're chatting about. I'm going to say the word. Just tell me whatever comes into your head. Not an interview question, and you also don't have to just do a one-word answer. Just whatever pops into your head. Okay. Here we go. Right. First thing, what comes into your head, Gina, when you hear the word interview?
Preparation.
Oh. Number 2, next generation.
Opportunities.
Oh, I love that. And my favorite one, recruiter.
Worth their money.
Yes, right. Cut, end. Put that as the social. No, only have that as the graphic. Worth their money. Next one, salary.
Band. You should always put your salary band on there.
Oh,
I'm a big advocate for that. Show the salary.
Absolutely. Well, I like that. Never thought of it that way. Number 5, job descriptions.
Only useful if they're right. no hidden words, like tell me accurately what the job is actually gonna be.
I love that. Number 6, and I know you're going to be ready for this one. Marketing.
Interesting. Conference. We've got the marketing conference and awards coming up.
Nice. Hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. I like that. Yeah. And last but not least, event professionals.
Iconic.
Oh my God. All of those are sound bites. Thank you. That is our recruitment hot seat. It was that easy.
Yeah, nice. I loved it.
Good. Right. So let's kick on with some more. Now, I'm going to throw in a question that I didn't prep before, but you know I've asked this before and I love it. What's a zillennial marketer? You're the only person I've ever seen. Zillennial marketer. What's that?
So I was born in 97, like showing my age. Sorry. I'm so sorry. So like, I'm still like, I'm young enough to be like a Gen Z, but I'm old enough to be like like the younger bracket of millennials. So I'm kind of like in between. Like, it's kind of like we grew up like without a mobile phone in your first, like, you know, I didn't get a mobile phone until I was 13. And then like, but I'm young enough to remember like the internet being important in school. And, you know, it's kind of like a cross between the two generations, but like I kind of understand from a marketing point of view, both generations, of which I'd say about 46% of our workforce is now going to be. So it's kind of like, you need to know kind of both sides, and that we're coming into the workforce and coming in as attendees, as, you know, as your sponsors. Like, these are people you're going to have to pitch to, and like to be able to understand the pain points and the successes of the generations is important.
I like that, because it's such a lovely sort of segue in, because, you know, some people are like, oh, you're a baby boomer or you're a millennial, and it gets used as like a weapon. But I like that sort of, that crossover is really nice. And I've just done some quick maths. I was 21 when you were born. I was 21 when you were born. Hearing you talk about, I remember not having mobiles. I remember not, oh my God, that's maybe, I'm going to go and jump off a bridge later. Right.
No.
Oh, don't, man.
Age is an asset.
Say again, sorry?
Age is an asset.
Oh, thank you. Right, that's my new favourite one. Right, you did this sort of sandwich year as a marketing exec for Exhibitions. That is like, you know, I'm in awe of you. Talk to us about something during that period, like something that really sticks out for you, like a specific project or an accomplishment or something from there that you think that had a real impact on my sort of development career-wise.
I think for me, definitely being part of the first Exhibition News Awards back since the pandemic, the September 2021 Exhibition News Awards. That was like inspirational to see the, you know, the recognition, the celebration, meet everybody, everybody in the industry. It was really, really impactful to me to see people getting up and getting their awards, but also, you know, having fun and dancing, you know, at the after party, you know, till God knows what time. I think for me, like, it was a chance for me to like showcase the industry. Like, I was doing Instagram stories that had never really been done before. Like, I was their first ever marketing person that they've hired for Exhibition News. So for me, like, to give the industry kind of like bits and bobs that were new, that was also really, really cool to see. That made a really big impact. I love the Exhibition News Awards, and they're open tomorrow.
Oh, bless you. It's really interesting as well, actually, because, you know, I try to take positives where I can, and the pandemic obviously hit us probably more than any industry. But I also think the pandemic really gave us a bit more of like, it shone a light on events, not just for social, but professional. You know, that there's, you know, face-to-face events aren't just a piss up in a hotel somewhere. You know, they are like the networking, the interaction, and, you know, people like me that work at home, or lots of freelancers in our industry. And I think we've seen that now, haven't we? Like businesses especially saying, do you know what, B2B events and face-to-face events, it's better than I think I've seen it in a good couple of years. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I think like even things like Clubhouse, that was really big in the pandemic. Like I got an iPhone so that I could join, and then by the time I got my iPhone, I couldn't join. Nobody was already gone. Like the way that the events industry has adapted and kind of really, you know, gone at such a fast pace to digitalize some aspects. I think that that's kind of really inspiring too.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Clubhouse was the audio app, wasn't it? That just suddenly anyone could be a specialist. You get a room and you go, yeah, I'm going to talk to people. It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy. It went bananas for a little bit. In fact, is it still around? I don't know if it's still around.
No, I don't think it is. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Microsoft probably bought it, didn't they, or something like that. One of them ones. Now, listen, look, obviously I should be bowing down here. You were named as one of the top 50 event professionals in Europe. That's pretty impressive. Well done. So how do you think, with what you're doing now, and obviously with the work, and your history of work as well, how do you feel like you stay ahead? How do you keep driving? And also, what advice would you give to someone else, you know, wanting to make their own mark in the industry?
I think taking that in 2 points, like I think to stay ahead, like I read a lot. Like I have a whole little library of, you know, my university books. Like I take the practical underside of you know, like peer review journals, like, you know, the academic side of it. Like I'm working on a case study on AI and events with my previous lecturer for Sage. So like I think that that's kind of not taken as seriously in the exhibition and the events industry, because we're always saying, like, how can we catch up to marketing and to banking and finance in terms of like the level that we're doing it. And I think it's going to be through the academic work of a peer review journal and also like what our universities are doing. And then I think that's then coupled with like the proactive networking, you know, opinion pieces, personal branding. It's important. Like I think if you're young and you're actually wanting to kind of get somewhere, to then go and ask the people that you see that inspire you for that same kind of like, how did you get to where you're going, you know, what are you up to and stuff like that, like that they're doing, so that you can then kind of copy that side of things. Like, you know, even as simple as, you know, subscribing to EN and, you know, reading the articles.
Hashtag sponsored.
But like we quote them in our like university assignments. Like these are the articles. Yeah, like I quoted Martin Villard's like Sick of It, which is all about the sick codes, to do a whole presentation dedicated to the importance of, well, I called it sickening because it's like
I was secretly in love with that, but I can say that out loud.
Yeah. But like I put that on LinkedIn. I wanted to show my network that it's like, it's not just, you know, the likes of the Power of Events and, you know, CM that are thinking about this. Like the next generation of event professionals are also wanting to kind of make sure that we're all on the same 5 zip codes, so that, you know, we actually can contribute a proportion to see what our industry actually gives. And I think that if anybody else wants to kind of do the same, you know, but with different research or a different topic, you know, it's quite easy to do. Well, it's not easy, but, you know, it's there's not necessarily a formula for that side of things, but it's worth putting, you know, caring about the industry. That's how you get to, because other people can see that, see the passion that you've got.
And for those that don't know about sick codes, go and follow Martin Villard on LinkedIn. Even though he's a Wimbledon AFC fan, he's a nice guy. Go and have a look at him. So you mentioned something there that's really, really touched me there. I think a lot of you said earlier when you were in university, there wasn't a lot of literature, not a lot of sort of case studies around a certain area. And I think what we've always done is books or reviews or papers have usually been written probably by people my age who have gone through it and then gone, right, you know, and a lot of the times maybe the stuff that I went through isn't relevant now. And I saw something the other day, Benedicta Asante has releasing a book in January, and you're talking. That's something I think we should have more of, you know, like people who are in the industry now doing this sort of work so that, university students can say, well, look, Gina Kay's doing it, Benedicta's doing it. Is that something you've thought about even more, like to do, books, or maybe do that education piece for the future?
Yeah, I recently did one for Conference News, and I think we were in the same issue, where, I was talking about the renaissance in event marketing of like using AI, and doing this case study with my academic lecturer about, how AI is being used. It shouldn't be used for everything, but it's kind of like an unpaid intern, use your noggin with it. And I think that there is some content pieces that I see that I want to kind of give more spotlight to. I think there's some things that kind of get looked at all the time because they are the shiny, glittery side of the events industry. But there is other things that are just as important that maybe might not be getting the same level of understanding and progress that they should have.
I think it's that ladder thing, isn't it? Usually, people go through the hard work, get to the top, and then pull not deliberately, but pull that ladder up, right? Whereas, our community, and for the future generations as well, and the future talent pipeline, help other people up as well, help people. Oh, I like that. I've been talking that, like, looking ahead now, and it's a very wide question because nobody really knows, but what do you sort of see happening, in your area or in the event sector, trends or shifts? Like, what do you see specifically maybe around the younger generational, new talent pipeline? What do you see?
Okay, so for the events industry in general, I think that that there'll be more kind of focus on the process and the effectiveness and the efficiency. For the exhibition industry, I feel like it's going to kind of come into the experiential marketing sphere. That's going to, have a red carpet at your trade show. You've got 10,000 people there. You want 10,000 people taking a photo looking like they're on a red carpet at your event. Take the like slightly experiential side of things and, really use it to your advantage. And then for new generation and young professionals, I think that, yes, make sure that what you're doing is, of good quality, be patient, but also, have the same opinion pieces, have, thought leadership pieces. They don't necessarily, it's still good to hear from somebody just as new as the industry. Like if something isn't working and you find a bit of new tech that can to make that work. But be patient because the ladder is long and there is lots of different routes into the industry. And I think that like the pro events, when they have they're going to like categorize like the top 100 jobs and events, like that would be really, really helpful. Like I went to their Greenwich one as an alumni, and like a lot of the questions coming out from students is like, what are my options, and event professionals can, be able to reply back to that, to the industry, and say, oh, today I was doing this and this is what is required within my job, because then that's a two-way street.
That's fantastic. Do you still see there is that, and you've been through it, it's great to have this conversation. Do you see there still being a bit of disconnect between university and the end goal of a career in the events? Yeah,
and I think that it needs to be more of a, reach out, from both sides. I think it's almost like, stop being bitter now. We want people to be green, and yes, we get it. They can be very green, but at the same time, if you're doing nothing to kind of build that pipeline of talent, then we're still going to have the same recruitment issues that we've been going through since the pandemic, when everybody left. Like, are they leaving for a reason, or are we going to try and build that bridge again? Because we can't kind of, I think what you guys are doing with the Reach Scholarship is brilliant. And I've always kind of been loud in basically showcasing, it's like, yes, I look like me, but also you've got to realize that there are some prejudices that, like, everybody can join the industry, and it's only going to work if both sides kind of reach their hands out and get this to work.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Right, can you believe it? We're at the penultimate question. So let's give you a chance to rewrite it. Although, to be fair, the last few guests we've obviously you, and we had Gabby Mendes previously. like, you're just so wise. Like, I remember being, I feel like an old man, but I remember being your age, and the last thing I was thinking about was career and writing papers. Like, it's a different world, and I love it because, like, you know, I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, and, you know, they're coming in. But yeah, it's incredible seeing the next gen. So let's take you back 5 years. So you are going to go back 5 years. Career advice. What would you say to yourself, Gina, 5 years ago?
So 5 years ago was a year before I started university, where I was still doing, you know, academic conferences and student recruitment events and internal meetings. And I think for me, like, I would have just said, like, quit earlier, go straight to uni, like, just come to London. Like, it's hard work once you're here. Like, I don't have the same family like relationships within the industry, or, you know, I kind of came in fresh and green, and I just think if I'd started a year early, then I would have been able to kind of forge those relationships a little bit quicker.
To trust your gut, go with your gut.
Yeah.
And finally, Gina, what advice would you give to people looking to get into the events industry, and, you know, maybe separately marketing sector, but what advice would you give anyone now watching this thinking, well, I've thought about events?
Like, I think the scope and the scale, like, I think I wrote like an article like a few years ago for EvCom about like the fact that the exhibition industry is a great way for you to kind of like figure out the scope and the size and who you should work for. Because essentially, like, if you want to go into the events industry like I did, like, obviously choose a match that has international conflict, you get to see how other people can treat, you know, you as an exhibition brand. You know, it's the same, exactly the same as, you know, if you went into spring fair with clothing, or if you went into engineering and, you know, gas or anything like that. If you wanted to see how those brands react to, you know, treat other people, an exhibition is a great kind of route into the industry of events. And for me, like, in terms of marketing, there is a lot of resources out there. And there are a lot of people that kind of want to help, like anything from like Tempo, or even in marketing, there's Girls in Marketing, and, you know, even the Google Analytics course, like, that's free, or even LinkedIn. Like, there is little bits and bobs to show that you're interested, rather than just kind of applying and not kind of giving anything back. So if you kind of, like, you know, you comment, like, choose 10 companies that you want to work for, like, they're your ultimate goal, and just kind of comment and reach out and, you know, forge that kind of relationship where you want to be.
Oh, yeah. So much planning and strategy. I love it. I love it. Well, can you believe we've come to the end? I cannot believe that's gone quickly. Apologies both to the audience and, more importantly, Gina, for my technical issues. Thank you for dealing with that like the professional that you are. I honestly, like, I'm in a bit of, I'm not normally lost for words, but the last couple especially, and I think it's so great to see, and I know you're not the next gen, I'm not saying that you're just into it, but you are, you know, you're replacing me and my life, and it's great to see. I think your story, your journey, you know, the ideas, the insights, you know, I think people listening, and that, for me, it's not just about understanding more about you. It's quite a positive thing for industry. You know, your love for the industry is clear, and also the incredible work you're doing. So it's been amazing. What I would say to people, obviously we're streaming live. You get to comments. I'd apologise. You can stay updated. But what I would say, go follow Gina. Go, you know, she's on LinkedIn. I love what Gina puts out there. Gina, what are your? We'll put them on afterwards as well. But like, what do you want to say? Any comments from you to add to that?
Yeah, my Instagram and Twitter are Tattooed Event Manager, because I've got tattoos, funny enough. And my LinkedIn is Gina K. But if you want, subscribe to Exhibition News. We've got our EN Marketing Conference and Awards coming up. We've got our 30 Under 30 coming up, and we've got our EN Awards coming up. So all very busy.
Wow, and wonderful to hear. So thank you, everyone. You can stay updated for the next episode by visiting my LinkedIn profile, turn on notifications. You'll be reminded of future episodes, or just stay in the know about recruitment. That is a wrap for episode 13. Please remember, there is enough BS in the world already, so treat recruitment as a strategy. Don't dump it on the side of the desk. Thanks.